Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, comment down below, and upvote the video itself. Also, join our Subtext community after the Grove Bowl this weekend. We're going to do a subscribers-only live stream. You go in there, you watch the live stream, you get all that reaction, and it's just for you. It's part of our Subtext community. Subscribe to that. There's like a 2-week free trial right now, and it's $4.99 for a month. Derek, thank you very much for joining us today, man. How you doing?
Yeah, man, doing pretty good. Just getting in from work and we're ready to get this baseball series underway. It's a real big one for the Rebels. They're really got their backs against the wall. Got to take two this weekend.
Yeah, and before we get started, there's some weird rumor going around right now about some pitching injuries and some rumors for out for the season. What's the
Yeah.
latest that you've heard?
Yeah, I mean, that's really nothing new with Ole Miss this year, right? You know, pitchers being injured, not available, stuff like that. Mike Bianco in his post game press conference last night, he was talking about Braden Jones and Mitch Morrell not being available last night. It was, I believe, with Braden Jones, it was something with his elbow. I don't know if it was, discomfort or a pain, something like that. But he wasn't available last night, and Morrell's apparently been dealing with a back soreness that has kept him out several games this year, which you wouldn't really notice if you looked at his uh, games pitched this year. Last I looked, he was the most used relief pitcher in the SEC. So, but he expects both of them to be back this weekend. Hopefully, that's the case. This obviously isn't a pitching staff that can withstand too many more injuries. One more is probably more than we can handle right now. So, hopefully, that's the case. They're back this weekend. They've both pitched really well. Morrell, he's had his ups and downs, but like I said, he's pitched so much, you're eventually going to get hit in this league if you pitch that much. And Braden Jones has been absolutely nails for us. I've thought so far this year. So that's one guy that I would like to see get some more high leverage situations. And as long as the elbow's fine, I think that's one thing you'll see going into this weekend.
Yeah, and as you know, about a month ago, I became a lifelong Detroit Tigers fan, and the reason I
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that is they have Jackson Jobe, who is going through
Mm-hmm.
lower back stuff like that, and also Casey Mize had surgery for that, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that is starting to be prevalent, popping up like little back discomfort. I guess it might be the
yeah.
way fundamentals are taught pitching the ball. Maybe it's over effort. I don't know, but I'm starting to notice that lumbar problem, that back problem, starting to pop up.
Yeah, and kind of with pitchers these days, that's kind of the way it is, right? It's max effort all the time. That's usually a bullpen thing. Your starters would usually try to hold back and get through 6, 7, 8 innings all the way back in the day. You're talking 15, 10 years ago, something like that. But now we come out here and it's all about velocity and stuff. And so yeah, it's max effort all the time. And quite frankly, the human body wasn't meant or it wasn't built to throw a baseball the way that they're throwing it, as hard as they're throwing it and all that. Sure, you're going to have injuries and stuff like that. I'm glad you brought up Jackson Jobe. I was talking about him the other day. That sure would be a shot in the arm for the Rebels this year if we were able to get him on campus. But he was an incredible pitcher. Had a heck of a senior year, and he was able to cash in on that first round pick. So happy for him. Hopefully he gets back healthy. And for your fandom as a Detroit Tigers fan, hopefully he makes it to the big leagues before too long.
Yeah, he was in Lakeland, right up the road from me last year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we go on to Ole Miss, I just have a thought want to run by you. Has pitchers in the major leagues become running backs in the NFL?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought of it that way. Yeah, because you don't really want to overpay for them, but because of the increased injury risk on them, right? If you have 30 to 40 million dollars locked up in a guy, I mean, look at the Mets right now. They've got, I think they're paying Justin Verlander somewhere around $40 million a year, and he's yet to make a start for them. Now it doesn't sound like he's going to be out that much longer, but you're talking about a guy that's 40, 41 years old, has already had Tommy John surgery, and he's back on the IL before the season ever starts. But I do think it's a little different because it's a little harder to find those elite pitchers. So when you do find them, you do need to lock them up and get them in there. With running backs in the NFL, you've got to be almost out of your mind to go draft one in the first round these days and be locked into that kind of rookie contract on a running back. So I think it's different in that sense, but I understand the argument of it because of the huge injury risk with them.
Yeah, if you look at just take Jackson Jobe, there's the rumor
Yeah.
that he ran out the previous general manager in Detroit for taking that pick and taking a high school pitcher, which is something that apparently you do not do in the first round.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
there should be several GMs run out then because the Rebels have lost a few of them over the last five,
Yeah.
6, 7 years.
How many of them I wonder have turned out? Just out of, can off the top of your
Uh,
head.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of one that's actually made it all the way to the majors now that you say it.
Yeah, apparently it's like a high school pitcher. It's really hard to develop them because of several different things. I think they said 1 out of 5 high school players drafted to be pitchers in the first round actually make it to
Uh,
the show. Yeah.
well, yeah, and that kind of makes sense. You see all these pictures. I mean, you take Grayson Saunier from Ole Miss right now, for example, right? I mean, he was a highly touted recruit. He gets to campus, and Mike Bianco talks about how he's the most polished and possibly talented freshman that he's had on campus during his tenure at Ole Miss, which is really saying something. That's what we do. We pump out pitchers year after year after year. And he comes into the SEC, and you see how badly he's struggling right now, right? Like it does take time to develop. You got to get your body right, get into the weight room, get into a routine, and then you've got to learn how to pitch, and you've got to learn to take care of your arm. And that's really a problem with high school players right now is the high school coaches. Some of them don't really care about your arm. All they care about is trying to win as many games as they can, getting you out and overthrowing you over and over and over again. And it's one thing that's gotten really good about the college game here in the last 10 or 15 years is these coaches being aware that it's, yeah, you want these guys to pitch, you want them out on the mound for you as much as you can, but you also have to have their best interest in mind too, and not overworking them as much. And Mike does a really, really good job of that. I actually think Dave Van Horn does a really good job of that. I know he called a lot of slack a couple years ago for cops up there, but that was just the arm that he had in the bullpen, and he was out there trying to win a title. And so when it come time, he would throw him out there and he'd let him go 3, 4 innings and bring him back 2 days later. But historically, Van Horn's been really good about it. Mike's been really good about it. So I think there's a little correlation there, though, coming to college, getting into that routine, and actually seeing what you have to do to take care of your body. That way you can have some sort of longevity at some point.
Yeah, and I think the 20-hour rule, which really the 20-hour rule in college,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
but compared to being a full professional straight out, the fact that you
Uh-huh.
can't work and you actually have some free time to work, I think that kind of eases your arm into actually learning how to pitch. And maybe these high
Yeah.
schoolers get into it and just max effort straight from the beginning, and
Uh-huh.
they've shot, you know, they've blown themselves up by double A.
Mhm. Yeah. That makes total sense. I hadn't heard that stat about the high school pitchers that you had told me earlier. So that's definitely interesting. But again, it does make sense because you see all these guys. You even look at Hoagland, right? He was not very good as a freshman at Ole Miss, and by the time he left, he ended up being a first round pick. He learned how to pitch. He learned how to dial it down a little bit, move the ball in and out, up and down, and pitchability is a real thing that nobody ever talks about with pitchers. It's not all about if you can throw it 98 miles an hour.
Okay, let's go on to this season because I'm gonna be honest, Derek. Right now, I am not very happy, optimistic. I will
No.
say this, but for anybody that's listening, Mike Bianco gets a pass for this year. If Ole Miss doesn't
Yes.
win another game, he's fine.
Yeah.
Because Derek,
Um,
this run that Ole Miss went on last year, everything that happened, all the dominoes that had to fall into place. This kind of feels like this year Ole Miss is just kind of paying the piper a little bit.
well, yeah, and then if that's what we end up having to do, then fine, right? I mean, but it's not really that. much different from last year. The difference so far is that we haven't found those two studs to put at the top of the rotation, and we don't really have much bullpen depth. And one reason we don't have much bullpen depth is because we don't have those guys at the top of the rotation, and Doherty's having to throw on Friday nights right now. Which Mason Nichols Tuesday against Memphis, he's really struggled this year. That was pretty tough to watch. I was kind of upset that I decided to stay up for all of that, having to be up at 3:30 in the morning, but I did it anyway. So, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the difference this year, though. We're not getting that pitching, and we've improved so much on the mound, though. Like that's one thing I do want to emphasize. We talk about for the last 2 years, Mike Bianco always figures out the pitching. He's figured out the pitching on this staff as good as he's going to figure it out with the arms that are available to him. Right? I mean, JT Quinn looked incredible last weekend for us. He wasn't as efficient as he needed to be. That's something that he's going to work on, but he's a true freshman. Saunier is as talented as he is. I mean, he's really struggled, but that he's going to end up figuring it out next year and in particular the year after that. So, I mean, yeah, right now we're just beat up. You got Hunter Elliott hopefully coming back next weekend against LSU. I would think that his role might hinge on what Ole Miss does this weekend, right? Because, I mean, look, if you don't take 2 out of 3 this weekend, then you're staring at, 3-12 going into a series against LSU. And I mean, you're just really looking down the barrel at that point. And somebody that already has a slight tear in the UCL, I mean, do you really want to throw him out there and risk losing the rest of this year and all of next year, which is his draft eligible year on top of that, too? That goes back to looking out for the kid and looking out for the pitcher and what's in their best interest, right? So, big weekend for us, though. If we take 2 out of 3 this weekend, then I think we can turn it around. It's not going to be easy. We're going to have to get just it's as hot as we did last year to end up getting to 14, but the schedule lines up that way after we get past LSU. But it all starts this weekend, and we got to pitch the ball this weekend because Boy State can really hit it.
Yeah, and real quick, why is the offense tanked? It just looks to me like everybody's getting out there trying to hit 5-run home runs.
Yeah, you're just pressing a little bit right now, right? You saw it last year when the offense went in the hole back before we had the emergence of Dylan DeLucia and Hunter Elliott at the top of that rotation. There's a lot of pressure on them if they have to score, 8, 9, 10 runs a game for us to win, and sometimes that still isn't enough. Just like Tuesday night, that one's still pretty fresh on my mind. That one hurts, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I think when you see like Xavier Rivas, for example, this weekend against State, I think you'll see a much more relaxed offense because of the back-to-back performances that he's given us so far. He's pitched really well in SEC play. He's proven he can get outs and that he can keep them in a game, and not only keep them in a game, but proven he's going to give you 5 or 6 good innings too. He's not going to blow through your bullpen right out of the gate either, right? So I think there's some confidence there. So the Saturday game, I think that'll be really interesting to watch to see if they're a little more relaxed at the plate with Rivas on the mound. And, these other 2 guys have got to gain that same kind of confidence from the offense so they can relax and, see the ball, hit the ball. That's just kind of what it comes down to.
Before I let you out of here, why won't they just move Rivas to Friday and just try and get that first game of the series?
Yeah, I would. I wouldn't start Jack Doherty this weekend. I would keep him in the pen. And then I would start Rivas on Friday. I would start JT Quinn on Saturday. And I'd figure out Sunday when I got there, right? But I'm going to try to take those first 2 games. And this would be a good weekend to do it, really, because you're not going up against that typical SEC ace, right? It's not like next Friday you're getting Paul Steens coming into Oxford. I mean, throw Rivas out there. He can match up with any of Mississippi State's guys as much as they struggle throwing the ball. I would throw him on Friday, Quinn on Saturday, and I would let Jack Doherty do what he does best, and that's come in and give me 3 high leverage innings when I need it. With Rivas, that would be, get through 5, maybe even 6, and then you can bring in Doherty to possibly close out the rest of it. And then again, Quinn and your entire bullpen, if Jones and Morrell are available this weekend, like Mike thinks they'll be, then, that's not a bad threesome to go into Saturday's game with to possibly take the series. and then you just go roll the dice on Sunday. You'll hop on your favorite sports book and see a 22.5 total run on Sunday between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Bet the over and just see if you can't out hit them at that point.
Absolutely. And if this series does not go as well as planned for Ole Miss, next week there's a player coming into Oxford that has an over 600 on base percentage, 30 games into the season. I mean, I think
and he's hitting over 500.
Yeah,
he's absolutely nuts, man. Dylan Cruz and Paul Steens, what they've got over there, for my money would be the top two picks in the draft. That both had incredible years. Rebels are going to have their hands full, and we definitely don't need to go into next weekend saying, okay, we got to take two from the Tigers, because if we're in that position, we're in a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I'm looking at everything. I'm trying to will Jacob Gonzalez to the Detroit Tigers, but it looks like White Langford might be available. If the Pirates get a wild hair, maybe Dylan Cruz falls, because the Tigers have the third pick.
There's no way the Pirates can pass over Dylan Cruz. There is no way.
Well, even then, you got Wyatt Langford sitting there. Yeah, you've got Skeens from LSU, because the Tigers, I don't think, are going to take. They wouldn't take Skeens. I think he might go too.
No.
Yeah, but there's some good players available anyway. Anyway, Derek, thank you very much for stopping by. And everybody, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day, your team every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. Plus, you get to hear from big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. And everybody that's listening to this show, especially our everydayers, the people that listen every single day, thank you very much. And thank you, Derek, for stopping by and dropping a little knowledge on Ole Miss baseball and baseball just in general, man.
No problem, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, on the After Dark brand channel that we have, Derek Vandygriff going to have an Ole Miss baseball podcast, but sooner rather than later. So tune in for that as well. Subscribe now if you haven't already. So
yeah, excited to get that started.
Yeah. Derek, take care, buddy, and I will talk to you next week, man.
All right, man. Hi, Toddy.
Hotty toddy.